Hey guys, how's it going? I am Greg from Supposedly Fun, here again to talk to you. Now, it's been a while since I did a sort of chatty video. Not chatty in the sense of me talking at you about things that have been going on in my life and what I've been reading, but chatty in the sense of involving you in the conversation a little bit. I enjoyed doing a couple of those videos over the course of the summer, so I thought I would try to do one again. Basically, I've really enjoyed doing these videos in the past because there's a really great diversity of opinion here on BookTube, and on the ones that I've done in the past, there have been a lot of comments that challenged my own ideas or things that I went into those videos thinking. So I'm always game for that. I enjoy that. So hopefully we'll get some more of that right here. And what topic seems more timely than the idea of book awards? Obviously we had the fiasco with the Nobel Prize, the fiasco with the Booker Prize, announcing that there was a tie when it seems like the general consensus from the comments on the video I did reacting to that, which I will link down below. I will link the Nobel one down below as well. The general consensus seemed to be that most people would have preferred that it just be Girl, Woman, Other and not the Testaments as well. I know that's still a hugely controversial issue in the UK, where one of the members of the jury wrote an article that really just made everything worse. So we've had that. The BookTube Prize was announced. The National Book Awards are happening, I believe, next month. We are down to the shortlist on that. The Pulitzer Prizes are still a ways off. There's been a lot going on, basically. So I thought this is a good time to talk about prizes, what we think they're worth, and which ones we like. And I guess let's start with the positives. I would love to hear what your favorite book prizes are, because I think we can all agree it's good to have book prizes. And for this, let's maybe exclude the BookTube Prize. We can all probably agree that being part of BookTube or following along with BookTube, we appreciate having a prize that is kind of our own and a growing thing, and we can all agree it's a good thing. So maybe let's assume that we all love that and talk about some of the other ones. Personally, you could probably tell if you followed along, I have a bit of an obsession with the Pulitzer Prizes. I have started a project where I want to read every single one of them, although I haven't actually started it yet. So I am definitely partial to that one. I have followed along with the Booker Prize in the past. They've had some really good winners. They've also had some kind of obscure winners. But it has traditionally been a good bellwether of quality literature to me. The Women's Prize is more new to me, but it has a good mix of winners from the past. I know a lot of people on BookTube are very enthusiastic about that. I know there are a lot of other different prizes. There's like the Penn Faulkner Award. There's, I'm forgetting the name of, there's an Australian Literature Prize that just announced shortlist, I think. But anyway, I would love to hear what prize you appreciate the most and which one you think has the most quality, which one you depend on the most to help figure out books that you might enjoy. So drop that in the comments down below and let's get a conversation going on that. And then in terms of the more nitty-gritty, difficult part of the conversation, I would be interested in hearing what people think about book prizes in general. Are they fair? Are they well-rounded? Just in general, what do we think of the prizes? Do we need to be more open and wide-ranging in terms of the scope of each individual prize? Understanding that within limits, like the Pulitzer Prize is for an American author dealing with American topics. The Booker Prize is for books that were published in the English language. And then they have a separate prize for international. So do we think that's a good way of doing things? Should they lump international in as well? How do we think we should handle that? Do we need different categories? The National Book Award obviously has several categories. There's nonfiction, fiction, poetry, and young literature as well. Do we think more prizes should do something like that? Because I do think it's very different if you're judging a novel and a book of poetry. That's very different. The authors are probably trying to achieve very different things. It takes a different skill set. Similar, but different. And the same with nonfiction. So do we think, would it be interesting if, say, the National Book Award had an overall prize where they considered poetry, young adult fiction, fiction, and nonfiction all in one? Would that be fair? I don't know. I love the idea of having an overall where any book could win. Obviously, when I do my year-end wrap-ups, I consider fiction and nonfiction and everything I've read, which one speaks to me the most. But I definitely also, if I was going to be running an official prize, I do feel like different categories feel like a good way to do it, because it's a little more fair, it puts everything on an even ground, so you're not comparing an apple and an orange. Oh, and I know the BookTube Prize is adding a nonfiction category in the coming year, so that's good. We're getting a little more diversity there, and I guess, do we? Because a lot of the comment on the Nobel reaction video that I did was that yes, the Nobel Committee, the Swedish Academy, released a statement saying that they wanted more diversity of books. They wanted to try to aim to get away from the very male-centric, Eurocentric point of view that they had been, quote-unquote, stuck in. But then they awarded a prize to 2 European people, 1 male, 1 female, and the male was more problematic, for sure. I don't think anybody's upset about Olga Tokarczuk winning, but, there are some people who say, well, if a white male from Europe really is the best author, shouldn't it go to that? I am not convinced in the case of Peter Handke, because I absolutely think there are people who would deserve the prize and not be problematic like that. One thing I really appreciated was that the Booker Prize made a good effort to have a predominantly female jury this year. They had a very diverse jury. I think that was, I really liked that. I think the execution has proven to be really problematic. And it remains to be seen how all of that is going to shake out. But I like what they were doing. And I do appreciate that that is probably how we ended up with a book like this, not only being longlisted, but getting shortlisted, and then ultimately co-winning the Booker Prize. So I would love to see more of that. I like that the Booker Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, they rotate out members of the jury every year. And I think that is kind of exciting. It definitely can sometimes make it a little difficult to pin down what is going to win, because obviously when you bring in different people every year, there are going to be different tastes involved. So you can get a left field book like, say, Tinkers winning the Pulitzer Prize, or Andrew Sean Greer's Less winning the Pulitzer Prize. So there's a mix of things, and I personally may argue that something like Less is a good book that should not have won a Pulitzer, but I do like that diversity of opinion that comes with rotating out the jury and getting different perspectives. So what do you think about that? And finally, let's get to a different thing that actually came from the idea of the Booker Prize, because, and I mentioned this in my reaction video, Margaret Atwood seemed kind of embarrassed when she won and when she went up there and made a brief speech before giving the spotlight to Bernardine Evaristo, where she said, "I don't need the attention." So, and I mentioned in that video, I don't subscribe to the notion that just because you are an established author or a best-selling author, or that you have won an award in the past, you shouldn't have to go away. But I'd be interested in hearing what you think about that, because it is an interesting thing, because it comes up with the Emmys a lot. Like, say, Julia Louis-Dreyfus winning back-to-back Emmys for Best Comedy Actress. At a certain point, should somebody step back and say, you know what, I don't want to be considered? I don't necessarily subscribe to that notion, like I said, but I'd be interested in hearing what you think. To me, if Cormac McCarthy released a book next year and it was amazing, he should be in contention for, say, maybe the Booker Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, whatever. Just because he has won a Pulitzer before doesn't mean he should not be considered again. And the same goes for, say, Margaret Atwood or anyone else. So definitely let me know what you think of that as well. And on the flip side, do you dislike book awards? Do you think they're unfair? I will say the one award I always roll my eyes at is the Goodreads Choice Awards. Because I know a lot of people here on BookTube are on Goodreads, let me know what you think of those as well, because I'm not 100% convinced. I just don't see it as a good gauge of quality. And maybe I'm just bitter about it, because it feels like any book that I really get behind and want to see win never even makes it into the final round, and that's always disappointing every year. So I would probably say that's my least favorite book award. And if you have a least favorite book award, drop that in the comments down below and let's discuss that. So hopefully that gives us enough to talk about. I feel like Linda Richman, I'll give you a topic. Hopefully that gives us enough to talk about. I'm really interested in hearing your opinion on these things because I've just been thinking about a lot of different things as a lot of different book awards have been happening, and as we start heading into the end of year, when obviously I will be starting to think about what my favorite reads of the year, and I'm sure many other people, and I'm positive many other people on BookTube will be doing the same, and many people who comment as well. So I don't know, it's just been on my mind a lot. So let's talk about it. Anyway, drop those comments down below, and as always, I appreciate your time and your willingness to follow along on this, and let's talk about it, and I'll be back. Until then, happy reading.